position type thing.
What's going on, bottom line viewers? We're just planning out our video for the Pro Bowl. We're just kind of gonna play it and see where it goes, and right off the hip, we'll see where it goes. Because this is the NFL Pro Bowl reactions to the rosters of the AFC and the NFC. I got AC here, of course, as you saw earlier. AC, what's going on, bro? What's your thoughts? What's your initial thoughts of the Pro Bowl itself? Like, not necessarily the rosters. Do you value the Pro Bowl? Do you watch the Pro Bowl? What do you think of it?
I don't. I'll watch it, but I think it's just more. If you want that Pro Bowl tag, I don't think the game means anything. But like going into the Hall of Fame, or for your career when you retire, it's nice to see 5 times Pro Bowl. You know what I mean? It means that you played well at least those 5 seasons, because there's a lot of guys that have like 3 Pro Bowls that we probably wouldn't even talk about ever again. But when you can stack those Pro Bowls up, and here's the thing too. Most of those championship teams that obviously go on don't play in the Pro Bowl. They still get a Pro Bowl, award. Like they still made the Pro Bowl. But
Yes.
Then those reserve guys now make the Pro Bowl as well. And they actually, I don't think it's like, even if you're a reserve, you make the Pro Bowl, it still goes on in history that you made the Pro Bowl. So it's like, it's a little different now, because if you think about it, 10 new guys make the Pro Bowl because, something, I guess, let's say, between 6 and 12 between the 2 championship teams. Like the Patriots are en route to make the Super Bowl, and they only have 3 guys, right? Which is probably the lowest of a team that's. I think last year they must have had more, right? If I'm not mistaken.
They might have had 5 or 6, but not many.
Yeah.
The Patriots have always been a team that has been. It's been about the sum of their parts, not the parts themselves.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that when it comes to Pro Bowl and Pro Bowl votes, you obviously look at a team like New England and the years of their success. And as a Patriots fan, as a historical NFL fan, and as I'm doing this NFL Top 100 list, I do look at those Pro Bowls. So I completely agree with you. And I'm looking at these things. But what I obviously value more is the All-Pro designation.
Yeah,
if you're an All-Pro, that is taken by the voters of the NFL. That's basically the same people that pick the MVP, the Defensive Player of the Year. They vote for the All-Pros, and those are only a couple of players at every position. The Pro Bowl is a little bit more fun. It's a little bit more relaxed. And I do agree with you, though. Like the designation, the tag of being a Pro Bowler, I think it's still a big deal.
Yeah.
The game itself, I've never cared for, especially being a Patriots fan when they're usually deep in the playoffs and the players for the Patriots never play. So I never really get a chance. And that's how the Patriots are good at anything. But even when they lose in the playoffs, they never play because they're hurt or whatever.
For sure.
So I never have a chance to watch my players play with the other great players. I maybe tune in every once in a while and see, there's been a couple of decent games in the past and decent moments. But it feels like the game itself, less importance every year. It's more about who actually made it and why.
And it's only been probably about 5-6 years now that they've actually played it before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
As well. Because normally they'd always get a bye week, but then just nothing happened during that bye week. And then it would happen the week after the Super Bowl. So that's what I'm saying now. So now we're getting, especially with injuries, the reserves now are Pro Bowlers.
Exactly.
So you're seeing more Pro Bowlers every year the last 6 years, with it not being on a Super Bowl. Look at the team. You know what I mean? I think one year Nick Foles I think he was a reserve.
Andy Dalton.
Yeah, exactly.
These guys that wouldn't make the Pro Bowl are now making the Pro Bowl. At least it says they made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
If you look them up on Wikipedia, it will say Pro Bowl 2013.
Yeah, definitely. And they could be going down, some of the QBs that have made it in the past, are maybe the 6th or 7th just in their conference, which makes them mediocre anyways. You know what I mean? A 6th, 7th best
That
quarterback.
means you're the 12th, 15th best quarterback in the league. But you're making Pro Bowl.
Let's say AFC that Ben's injury doesn't want to go. Phillip Rivers probably seems to always go. But no Brady. You're looking at Blake Bortles has a potential to be a Pro Bowler this year. They'd be the 5th or 6th quarterback. You know what I mean? On a good team.
Smith could be in there.
Smith would be, for sure. It's just interesting to see how the reserves work. And then at the end of the day, too, certain positions, it seems to be not their play, just like their stature. Like you were, obviously, we'll talk about the Raiders.
Yeah.
Like, the Raiders had 3 offensive linemen, which, and I'll even say this: I don't think the Cowboys. I think Tyron Smith should get on there.
We'll get into the players themselves.
Yeah.
But
I just think like that's a lot of just clout from the year before, rather than if you watch them play, even though they're the best, like they weren't probably the best you could put them. I always like for the offensive line
2018. So
well, yeah, and like he was injured, but I guess we'll get into all this. But I just think that offensive linemen, it normally should be stacked with like the top offense. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't be like a mediocre.
Yeah,
I know there's good players, but if you have 3 guys,
it's become easier for a common fan to evaluate the offensive line due to the fact of the new analytics and the things like Pro Football Focus, and like they actually put focus on, okay, who's playing well on the line and how can you tell who's playing well on the line. And there's plenty of analysts that have played the position that can explain how this guy is good and what this guy is doing. And then when you watch them play, it's kind of hard to look at the Saints and say their offensive line sucks.
No, exactly.
They're running the ball at will. They're passing the ball. You look at a team that's successful on offense, usually their offensive line is pretty good. Like you said, the Eagles, the Patriots, the Steelers, these teams have good offensive lines this year. And that's even the Chiefs, a team like the Chiefs. They have a good offense when you really wouldn't think they would have a good offense, but their offensive line has kind of catapulted them. A team like the Vikings, a terrible offensive line last year, I don't think we'll get into it, got enough recognition for their offensive linemen this year. So
yeah, that's what I think. So like what Zenners, what's his name? Zemmers? I thought he was one of their better players.
Yeah, so I just think like in that regard, and then contracts play into it. I'm not sure how much a player gets voted in because of the fan vote. Like, I don't know how much is a fan vote and is a coach vote and is a person. Like, I don't know who gets the final say or whatever. I think it's starters is fan vote and then backups is like other people voting, like the NFL voting, but I'm not quite sure on that. Like, you never really know. But let's start going through these rosters and then we'll kind of go from there. So let's start off with the AFC, which has my Patriots. And like we said, only 4 Patriots this year. I actually want to look up the past years just to see. But starting at receiver, I think they got it pretty much correct, in my opinion. They have Antonio Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, and Keenan Allen. For the wide receivers of the AFC, obviously you're going to have Antonio Brown, MVP candidate. DeAndre Hopkins has been playing great. And I would say as a start, he's designated as a starter. I say that's a good call. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of DeAndre Hopkins, you have to give it to him for the flexibility in his game to play with multiple. He's played with 3 quarterbacks. He's still getting it done. Even with a bad season for this team, he's putting up numbers, so you got to give it to him. Then AJ Green is, of course, going to be there every year. No matter what, he's just too talented. Keenan Allen is having a great year. He has the most third down catches in the NFL. He's, I think, 2nd in receptions. He's on the hot Chargers team down the stretch. So Allen's playing great too. Any other guys? What do you think? First, what do you think of the receivers? Guys that you thought were snubs?
I like most of them. You can't really argue with Antonio Brown, Hopkins, and also Keenan. But I think you could argue AJ maybe. Like, I think Cooks was better than AJ Green this year. You could have put maybe Cooks probably struggled in the last couple games a bit.
I'll say this
numbers-wise.
I'm going to say this, AC. Cooks, in terms of Cooks, is a guy that I always thought when Chandler Jones was on the Patriots, this was the same way I thought of Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones, who has now become one of the best pass rushers, he's leading the league in sacks, I think, pass rushers in the NFL. He was a guy that had 10 sacks, but you didn't necessarily think he was like a 10-sack guy. For me, Brandon Cooks right now, I think I expected a little bit better in terms of impact on the actual game. He still puts up stats. Like, you'll see like 100 yards at the end of the game, 80 yards at the end of the game, but it doesn't feel like he consistently is producing and he's consistently the reason why the Patriots are winning. You know what I mean?
True.
Like, and he's had a couple games, like he's had a few games where he's like exploded and been amazing. And then he's had a couple games where he's just been quiet and nothing's really happened. Personally, if you're coming down to, okay, who would you rather have on your team, Brandon Cooks or AJ Green? I would go with AJ Green. I think the guy that they snubbed if AJ Green wasn't going to make it would be Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, and I was going to say that too, but I think they were already going to put him as he made it as the specialist, as the kick returner. So I think that's why. And what we've seen before, it's like Sproles almost won a Pro Bowl MVP as a kick returner, and then they just put him on offense, right? Like that's the coaches will be like, okay, he's the kick returner, but he's going to be playing just as many snaps. Yeah, I think with AJ Green, it came down to he had such a slow start and such a good finish. But another guy I'll throw out there that obviously his stats aren't as good. I think he has one last touchdown. I think like 8 fewer catches and maybe 80 yards fewer is Robbie Anderson, because
he asked.
If you look at his stats, like he's definitely first or second, third alternate right now in receivers. Like his stats are up there, especially with AJ Green, because AJ Green, if you even add Tyreek Hill and Cooks, AJ Green is below those guys and only above Anderson. So we'll see what happens, but I think he still might get a call.
Yeah, the Brandon Cooks one, like looking at his stats, he's 10th in receiving. He has 58 catches, 6 touchdowns. Pretty close to AJ Green, I guess, like when you're looking at the numbers. But Green does have more touchdowns, more catches, slightly less yards. But like, yeah, I just think AJ Green is just you look at him and you're like, yeah, he's a top 5 receiver.
Oh, for sure.
It doesn't really matter what his numbers are. I mean, plus the Bengals have been having a down year. So I would say that they made the right call on the receivers. You could argue a couple other guys. I would say
maybe Landry.
Cooks is on the edge. Like you said, Robbie Anderson, maybe.
Landry.
I think Landry with 98 catches.
Yeah.
Even though he only averages 8.6 yards per catch, you could put that more towards his quarterback play. He does have 8 touchdowns this year, which is the most of his career. Yeah, I think he would definitely be in the conversation as well. But I think they just went. I think they just went with the name.
Yeah, true.
So maybe we'll see. The tackles. Okay, so this is interesting. We have Villanueva from the Steelers, who's starting. Taylor Lewan from the Titans, and then Donald Penn is the backup for the Raiders. What are your thoughts on these 3 players? And then I'll kind of react to what you think off that.
I'll just start off with Villanueva. He's like, it seems to me like, I know last year was kind of his best year as well, but like he might have had like the most improved out of any professional athlete I've seen. Like I remember when the Eagles signed him as like a D tackle, because he never played offensive line because he was an Army guy, right? And I remember when after he served, the Eagles signed him and like tried to play him at tight end and defensive end and stuff like that. And then when he goes over to the Steelers with coaching, he just becomes this incredible tackle. And if you think about it, with Pittsburgh's offense, with Bell obviously leading the league in rushing yards, I think that has something to do with it as well. And he's good. Taylor Lewan, I think that this is more of just like a beast. Like when you just watch this guy play,
he's great.
He's a freak, right?
Yeah.
I haven't watched much Raiders game, but I just don't know how the Raiders got 3 guys here. But Donald Penn obviously is a beast as well. Mm-hmm. But I just don't know if he was good enough to make the team this year. I'd have to like really look into it for tackle to see who maybe should have got in instead.
Yeah, I'm looking at the AFC right now, and I'm trying to go through the rosters. Like, of the Bills, Cordy Glenn was hurt for most of the year.
Yeah.
Marcus Cannon has been hurt for most of the year. The Ravens, I mean, I don't think they really have anyone that I would consider. The Bengals, no. The Jaguars, no. The Titans, maybe their other tackle. The Chiefs don't really have strong tackle play. It's more kind of like interior. The Chargers, maybe. I think the Chargers' offensive line doesn't get enough recognition for how well they've been playing as of late. I think that they've been playing pretty well. But I don't know necessarily like Joe Barksdale. Like, I don't really know who.
Yeah, I guess if you're, you know what, I'm looking at it too. Like, maybe Mitchell Schwartz of the Chiefs would be, maybe could get in front of him. But yeah, like after Lewin and Villanueva, and you only need 3, I think you just go with, like, looking at the AFC and left tackles,
not a very
like,
no,
compared to the NFC, Like the NFC is like every single prototypical left tackle you see in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like stars. Yeah. So I would say maybe Mitchell Schwartz gets in there, but maybe inconsistency with them not being able to do anything with offense. And at least with Oakland, as of late, they've at least be able to put points up and move the ball. And I think maybe that stretch of the Chiefs when they were losing games and couldn't do anything offensively probably hurt Schwartz.
So, like, looking at it, you could argue maybe one or two more guys, but then again, like you said, there's not a lot of strength at this position in the AFC, so can't really judge it too much. The guard position, Kelechi Osemele is the starter for the Raiders, David DeCastro, the other starter for the Steelers, and Richie Incognito for the Bills. The one big disagreement, I think, is Kelechi Osemele for me. Watching the Raiders, their offensive line needs to take some sort of negativity on their shoulders. They were great last year. They haven't been great this year. Their run game hasn't been great. Their pass game hasn't been great. And I think that there's a couple guys like on the Chiefs. I always forget his name. It's really long.
The French guy?
Yeah, the French guy.
Yeah, Alir Tardif.
Yeah, that guy.
I think he actually played Canadian university football as well.
Yeah, he is a beast. I think he should be in there. I definitely agree with the David DeCastro mention.
Yeah.
I actually want to give a shout out to Shaq Mason of the Patriots. I think he could be in the conversation.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I could say that. I would say, like, though, I don't think Osemele should have been a starter, but I think I would have been fine with DeCastro and Incognito being the starters.
Incognito
and then throw whoever you want as the third guy.
Yeah. But like looking at the guards too, like across the league, who else do we got for offensive linemen here?
Like a lot of offensive linemen, just looking at like the best offensive linemen from last year, a lot of them went to the NFC.
Yonda's a regular, he's hurt.
Because Zietler on the Bengals used to be good, but didn't he go to the Vikings, right?
Yeah, he's gone too.
Yeah.
I don't know about the Jets. I couldn't really say about the Jets, but they've obviously improved in some areas. I don't think their offensive line's the biggest. But yeah, again, like a couple guys that we just mentioned, but I don't really see anybody else that could really join them. Yeah, so guards, I guess we're going to have to live with the centers. Marquise Pouncey is the starter for the Steelers, and then Rodney Hudson for the Raiders. Again, should another Raider be in this conversation? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think comes with some clout. I'd have to look at all the rest of the centers. Who's the Patriots center?
Dave Andrews.
Who's decent.
Yeah, he could have made it.
He's decent. And even like didn't Cannon have a pretty good season this year or no?
Cannon's hurt. That's the thing. Like Cannon would definitely make right tackle.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He was hurt.
Yeah, like obviously you go with the Steelers, and then I think you just go with a big name center, right? I'm assuming.
Hudson, I think, makes it more for like reputation and his contract more than anything. Because
and that's like Yanda for a long time, right? Like Yanda seemed to make it like every year, and Yanda is a beast.
Yanda's been really good though. I don't think Yanda's really necessarily had like a season that's been down. Again, you'd have to examine the offensive line a ton. Obviously, there's the other Pouncey in Miami who could maybe make it. I think the Pounceys kind of get recognition because of their name and everything, and they're kind of well known. Yeah,
but he is the best. He is the best center in the AFC. Plus,
he probably is. He's on one of the best offensive lines, so you have to give them that recognition. And
it's like the old Madden. It's like the Madden formula, right?
Who, the overall?
No, like not even like the Madden, where it's just like if you have the best team in your franchise, your whole offensive line normally makes the Pro Bowl.
Oh, that's weird.
Like every time.
All right, the tight ends, Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski. Travis Kelce actually gets the star to start, so that's interesting. Getting more of the Pro Bowl vote, getting more of the voting, I guess.
Yeah, but that's more voting, right? Because the voting, I don't think
that the votes.
They can't really like fudge the numbers on the starters, but then on everything else, they can kind of bring in who they want. In my opinion, I don't think it's all about the numbers for the backups.
Would there be anyone that would argue there?
obviously Gronk should be the starter. But if the Patriots went on this run with Gronk the last couple of weeks, like maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe it's different, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Kelsey's been great this year. There's no denying that. It's Gronk. It's Gronk. But yeah, I think they made the right two choices. Those are probably arguably the two best tight ends in the league. So they're in the same conference there. I don't think maybe anybody else that deserves recognition. Hunter Henry hasn't been bad all year.
If there was a third, though, it would be Delaney Walker, in my opinion.
Delaney Walker.
Because just on stats.
Jack Doyle would be in the conversation, I guess. Like if these guys were in the NFC, they might make it. But those are the guys that maybe were snubs in that position. Quarterbacks, Tom Brady is the starter. Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger are the backups. I'm not sure who the backup is or who the third string is, but it's Tom Brady first and then Rivers and Roethlisberger. I would think that Roethlisberger would be the primary backup. Rivers would be secondary. Looking at the quarterbacks in the AFC, I don't think you can really argue with this one. I was thinking about it, and I was kind of questioning Rivers at first. Even though he's had a decent season, it's not been like one of his best seasons ever. You can't say that Andy Dalton's been good. You can't say Marcus Mariota's been good. Deshaun Watson would have made it, but he can't. I think the next guy is probably Alex Smith.
No, Alex Smith for sure. But I'm just looking at this. How about this? I guess
Josh McCown maybe, but he's hurt.
For passing yards, Brady's number 1, Roethlisberger is number 2, Phillip is number 5. In the top 13, there's only 2 other AFC guys.
And this is part of the reason why we're talking about an AFC conference this year that's really weak.
Like Alex Smith is 6, and then guess who's the 4th best in terms of yards in the AFC? Blake Bortles.
Good old Blakey.
Yeah.
But like thinking about the quarterback, like thinking about the teams that haven't had a starting quarterback the whole year. Bills, Dolphins, Jets.
Yes, true.
Browns, Titans for a game, Texans, Colts, Raiders for a game, Broncos. Like there's so many teams that haven't had stability at that position in this conference that it's hard. Like you could only really point at Alex Smith, and then for some reason Blake Bortles would be in the conversation as a guy that could get into the Pro Bowl. So that's not very good. The running back position, Le'Veon Bell is the starter. Kareem Hunt and LaShawn McCoy are the backups. You could argue Kareem Hunt could be the starter here, but there's no problem with giving it to Le'Veon Bell. LaShawn McCoy also deserves to make it, in my opinion. Looking at the other running backs, thinking about it, I don't think that the Titans have anyone. Lamar Miller is consistent, but not good enough. Melvin Gordon, I guess you could say that he could have made it. Other than that, I mean, who would be next? Dion Lewis? Like, I don't think.
No, it'd be Fournette probably.
Oh, Fournette. That's right.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon, Fournette, maybe even like looking at the stats, C.J. Anderson, but he's only has 2 touchdowns. But no, yeah, I think they got it spot on. Yeah. But obviously, Melvin and Fournette.
I would say, those
it would
two
be Melvin before Fournette. Actually, I think it might be Fournette in front of. No, because of passing. I would say Melvin in front of Fournette. But
Melvin doesn't really get the big plays like Fournette does, but like people don't realize how consistent he's actually been. Yeah. So, those are like after 5, it kind of drops off. But definitely, I think the 3 are the right choices. And then when you go to the fullback, James Devlin of the Patriots makes it. I totally agree. I think this is long overdue. He's been a great fullback for at least 3 years now. So I know that's being biased from the Patriots perspective, but he does everything. He's very crucial to the offense. He's in on, they do more running sets and play actions, and they throw to him and they put him at receiver, and he plays special teams. He does all the things that you want for a fullback. And honestly, like back in 2015 when the Patriots didn't have him, he was one of the biggest impacts for why they weren't able to run the football. They couldn't run for shit that year. And a big reason was because they didn't have Devlin there. And I think this is just a long overdue kind of voting for James Devlin as the fullback.
And I don't think there was a lot of there weren't as many fullback touchdowns, because like I always go back to Madden for my Pro Bowl. If you're fullback, if you just like let him rush for like 2 touchdowns and then he didn't rush a single time, he'd always make the Pro Bowl. So if you want, that's a little Madden hack. Yeah,
usually it's the guy that like everybody knows because he runs for touchdown. But like, I like to see the actual fullbacks that are good all around make it. So
no, for sure, and that's what it is, because you don't have the use check. You know what I mean? You don't have the guys that are like, because normally the fullbacks that make the Pro Bowl are
like John.
There's always a few teams that like use them really, really well, right?
Like Mike Tolbert made the Pro Bowl last year, and he had no reason making this. It was terrible, but everybody knew who he was, so he made
exactly. And he gets to rush the ball at least 4 or 5 times a game. You know what I mean? Like, he's notable. Yeah.
Now we get to the defensive side, which I think is a strength for the AFC. We look at the defensive end. Joey Bosa starting with Calais Campbell, and then Khalil Mack as the other defensive end. Now, I would have personally, even though Calais Campbell does play defensive end, he's also a defensive tackle. So I would have probably just put Calais Campbell in the interior lineman category, just so that you could put Melvin Ingram in the Pro Bowl, because I feel like he's a massive snub in this. On this team. Joey Bosa, his teammate, obviously deserves to make it. Khalil Mack is Khalil Mack, so he makes it, even though this isn't his greatest year ever, of course, but he's still a disruptive player and probably deserves to make the Pro Bowl. And then for interior linemen, we'll just go D-line altogether. Geno Atkins, Jarrell Casey are the starters, and then Malik Jackson. That's where I feel like you could have just put Calais Campbell in there and then probably added like Ingram or somebody else. In that spot at DN, because I think there's more DNs that deserve to make the Pro Bowl than interior linemen. So that's just my thoughts on that. But what did you think of the guys that were voted for the AFC on the D line?
For the D line, like Joey Bosa, Calais Campbell, we're going to be in there for sure. I think you get into like trouble because of teams playing so many different schemes. You know what I mean? Like 3-4. Like, it's like a 3-4 D tackle is. I mean, sorry, a 3-4 outside linebacker is basically a D end, right? And like a defensive end in a 3-4 is basically a D tackle. Yeah, I don't mind. I'd have to look at Jarrell Casey's, because I do like Atkins and Malik Jackson, but I'm going to trust that he's had a great year, because I haven't really seen much of him.
He's been a solid, quiet player, like a good player for a couple of years. And
but I'm surprised that he's higher than Malik Jackson, though.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's a fan vote thing. So,
yeah, how many Jaguars can you put in the Pro Bowl?
True,
I mean, that's a lot. Looking at other guys for the snubs, obviously, I already brought up Ingram. I don't think I see anyone in terms of the AFC South, AFC West, AFC North. You could argue Cameron Hayward could be in the conversation.
Yeah,
and Geno Atkins is in there, of course. Other than that, Ndamukong Suh doesn't make it. That's interesting. He probably shouldn't make it, but I'm just saying he's a big name that didn't make it.
Yeah, and Njoku probably didn't get in there because of just too many Jaguars, right? And defensive end is tough, especially when we get to the NFC. Like, it's a tough position, especially if you're only going to allow 3. A lot of guys are getting snubbed in that fashion. And I've always seen Mac more as a linebacker, but I know he's a DN. I know he started his career more as a linebacker, and now
what is he in Madden, AC?
He's a DN, but for the first, like, it's only this year he's been a DN, but forever he was an outside linebacker. And it's weird because I always switch them around. When last year or 2 years ago, Raiders, you could move them right away.
Well, the thing about
what I would do, I would change, and I'd change Bruce, because I'd always like playing a 4-3. I'd change Bruce Irving to defensive end, and I'd change Mac to linebacker.
The thing about Khalil Mack is he always gets compared to Von Miller, so that's why you feel like they're both the same position. Yeah. So then you go to outside linebacker and the linebackers in general. Outside linebacker Von Miller is going to make it. He's Von Miller. Jadeveon Clowney, I think they got the right choice there at the other starter. And then Terrell Suggs. I don't know if that's because he's Terrell Suggs or if that's because he's playing great. I think you could argue that there's a lot of other linebackers that could possibly make that spot. I would say that, Telvin Smith would be one of them on the Jaguars. I know CJ Moe. I'm trying to see who all made it.
And even like Ingram, you could have put Ingram.
You could have put Ingram there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd have to go through it.
But I agree with Terrell Suggs because I think a lot of people just look at obviously the stats, and out of all linebackers that are actually linebackers in your program, he's second in the league for linebacker sacks. And with his clout he has, I think it just all in all, he's a veteran player that had a really good career being older, 11 sacks. I think that's why he gets in there. Maybe Justin Houston could have been in there. I don't know.
Yeah, he hasn't had the greatest. He started off hot, but kind of faded down the stretch. So yeah, you could put Suggs in there. And then for inside linebacker, middle linebacker, CJ Mosley, Ryan Shazier. I think those are both the right calls. Dante Hightower is out with a injury. He wasn't going to make it. I don't think you could really argue Derek Johnson had a great year this year. Chargers had a couple guys, but I wouldn't say that they're Pro Bowl. And who else? You could have put like Puzzlesny or Telvin Smith or another Jag.
Yeah, I think Telvin Smith, but another Jaguar would have been tough. But obviously CJ Mosley had a career year this year, and Ryan Shazier was obviously the anchor of that defense. And if you're only taking two, right? Like, what can you do?
So there's two for the inside linebackers, so not a lot of thoughts on that in terms of like snubs. Then corner is kind of interesting. Both the Jaguars start, which I think is the correct call. Then you have Talib.
Yeah, crazy.
For the third corner, which AC will let you know about.
Like, I would have been fine. Like, I just felt like when you watch Broncos games, Harris is way better. Like, I don't even think neither of them should have been in there.
This is my thought. Casey Hayward should make it. I
agree. For sure. Yeah, Hayward is really good this year.
So the three other corners I agree with. Talib, I don't agree with. There's probably a couple other guys that you could put in there. Jimmy Smith got injured, but I think he would have made it probably over him.
Like maybe you could still even throw Peters in there. I know there's been
in the conversation.
Tre'Davious White has been good this year.
Chris Harris. You could even say like Malcolm Butler.
Yeah, I would say.
So I don't know. I don't really see it with the Talib pick.
Yeah, but I like Tre'Davious. Against the Patriots, if this was a bit earlier, Howard from Miami.
Just for that one game.
Yeah, exactly. What else here? Yeah, that's still pretty good. I still agree that, I like have Harris in there if you want a Bronco from that defense. But Talib, for me, watching him play, was not even a top 5-6 corner this year, even in the AFC. So I think there could have been some other moves there. Like even just Peters being at least on the Chiefs and having decent stats. But what can you do? That's kind of just giving it to, the big name. But I thought to me, Harris, especially this season, was 1,000 times better than Talib.
And the free safety, strong safety, Eric Weddle, and then Rashad Jones and Micah Hyde. Micah Hyde, the backup. And okay. Eric Weddle, the Ravens defense has been good. Honestly, I'm kind of mad that Devin McCourty didn't make it because I think he's probably the best free safety in the AFC.
The thing with Weddle, though, it goes to stats, and he's one interception.
McCourty's not a stats guy, right? So I understand that you're never going to get him in based on stats, but just his impact on the defense is so high.
That's how Jenkins got in. If we go to the NFC, I didn't think Jenkins was going to get in because to me, yes, he's been the anchor of the best team in the NFL, technically, you know what I mean? Record-wise. But I think Jenkins got on for being a leader in what he does just day to day rather than his stats because, yes, Jenkins has been good, but Harrison Smith doesn't get in over Jenkins. If I started an NFL team right now and I needed a safety, no offense to Jenkins, he's one of my favorite players on the Eagles, but I'd pick Harrison Smith over him.
And then even a guy like Kevin Bird doesn't make it.
Yeah.
For the Titans.
No, true. And then I even thought I don't know, Jones is good, but I thought Micah Hyde, you even can say.
I thought Micah Hyde would be the starter.
Me too. You even can throw Trey Boston in there. He's had a pretty good year.
Trey Boston, yeah. There's a lot of guys, to be honest.
Yeah.
But Eric Weddle gets in. He's a good player on a good defense. He's been good for a long time. He's still a great player. Don't get me wrong. I don't even understand why there's only 3 safeties that are voted in. Like it should be
Yeah.
four players at least.
Well, and like only 4 corners.
Yeah, only 4 corners. So Rashad Jones would probably be the one that I wasn't a huge fan of.
No, same here.
Okay. And then for the special teams, punter Brett Kern for the Titans, Chris Boswell for the Steelers as the kicker, and then special teams for Tariq Hill, return specialist, and special teamer Matthew Slater. So I don't think we're going to argue too much on the special teamer and the return specialist.
No. Well, let me just see. I love the inside the 20 punters. So let me just.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Brett Kern. I don't know.
Inside the 20, I'm all about. Oh, he is. No, he's just the highest average.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets in because he's just the highest average by 3. That's how they do it. Like he is 51.6. Shane Leckler is 48. But I go inside the 20. That's the one you want. And is it Sam Koch from Baltimore?
Yeah, he didn't make it.
No, he didn't make it, but he has 37 inside the 20. But that might just be because Baltimore like gets to the 45 yard, gets to the 45. But I love the inside the 20 one, and even Huber was pretty decent. I don't know, just to make small talk of the punter.
Chris Boswell, though, do we agree with that?
I think so. Just the game winners. That's all it was.
Yep. Justin Tucker, not his greatest year, still a great kicker. Goskowski. Who else could you put in there? The Chiefs guy hasn't been bad. Definitely not a Chargers kicker.
Yeah. Which one?
Vinatieri.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's about it. So, yeah, I think Boswell is the right call, too, in my opinion. Matthew Slater gets another Pro Bowl. Hopefully to get into Hall of Fame. We'll see. And do you think Tariq Hill should have been the kick returner?
Yeah, I think so. Like, what? It only takes you to get like 1 kick return or punt, or at least 2 or 3. I think 2. Like it's the same every year. The kick returner, if you get like 2 touchdowns.
I don't know like who's leading in average and everything. Like
but I don't even think they look at that. I think the only one where I think you would remember the kick returner is in the NFC. Obviously, you think Tyreek Hill, but watching any Rams game, you see why. Like I don't think Pharaoh Cooper has a lot of touchdowns, but when you watch him, like you can see he's a difference maker. Similar to, Sproles in years past and stuff like that. Like I think you just look at it more just if there's not guys making big plays. Because sometimes there's better kick returners. But this year I don't think it was a big kick return year compared to most years where you at least see it more often.
Last year was huge.
Yeah.
NFC Pro Bowl team. Julio Jones at wide receiver, starting with Adam Thielen, getting the recognition from the Vikings, Michael Thomas, and Larry Fitzgerald. What are your thoughts on the receivers?
Okay, I like the first 3. I think I know Fitzgerald has got a lot of targets this year. I don't know. There's something I just don't. I wasn't sold. I think you could go Marvin Jones was better. Let's see here.
I'd personally give it to Larry.
No, I know you can give it. Yeah, I can give it to Larry. Yeah, and he is above Marvin Jones, just less. His receptions are so heavy, and he's close to 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns. But it depends what you like more. Do you like the touchdowns aspect, or do you like receptions and yards?
I just think Larry Fitzgerald has been hard to stop, and he's
for sure. But even like Devontae Adams, like he had 5 more touchdowns than Larry Fitzgerald, and only 100 yards less receiving, right? Like
Fitzgerald is a slot receiver, so you have to factor that in.
Yeah, but I don't think they factor that in for.
No, but I mean, like you have to factor in, like he doesn't score as many touchdowns, but he catches more passes.
True. Yeah. No, like I'm not. I wouldn't hate on what they have here. I just think that you always like to see like a guy that had a breakout year. But I know Adams without Rodgers still, 10 TDs and close.
Yeah, he definitely proclaimed that he is the best receiver on that team.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't hate that. Michael Thomas, unbelievable this year. Thielen and Julio. Yeah, Julio turned it around too, right? Like, remember at the beginning of the year, people were like, "Where's Julio?" And then he goes off.
The thing about Julio is he doesn't get a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah,
that's he has only had 3 touchdowns. But he has 76 catches 1,200 yards, which you expect. Julio usually gets more catches too. This has just been a factor of their offense has not been as good as in the last couple of years. I think that Michael Thomas benefits a lot from being on the Saints.
Oh, for sure.
Like
but but his stats, like 94 receptions, already
he has
over
great
1,000
stats and everything. I don't think like if I was to make a team, I would say Michael Thomas is going to be my fourth receiver on the NFC. Like if I was creating my team, but like he is just like the stats, the team, and what he's doing. Like you kind of have to give him that. Other guys though, like the NFC, looking at it, is pretty weak in terms of receivers.
Sure.
Actually, looking at 14th place is Marquise Goodwin.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. Like your reserves are going to be are probably Marvin Jones, Adams, and then you can put Goodwin up there.
Golden Tate, Baldwin.
Yeah, maybe Baldwin, Cooper Kupp, definitely.
Evans.
And I actually, I know for a fact that Alshon Jeffrey is a reserve. I couldn't find
what about Robert Woods.
Yeah, I couldn't find. There is a list of the reserves, but when I searched it, it was just each individual team posting it. So I didn't want to go through 32 different websites to find out, because each individual team actually said who their reserves are. And Alshon Jeffrey is one of the Pro Bowl reserves. But I think that's more because of the 9 touchdowns.
Okay. Tackle. Tyron Smith, Trent Williams, and Lane Johnson. You have one of your Eagles there. What's your thoughts on the tackle position?
Yeah, Tyron Smith is a beast. He's easily the best, one of the best left tackles in the league.
I think Trent Williams is the best. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, and Trent Williams, you could argue, is just as good, if not better. So those two are going to make it every time. And they don't go left tackle, right? They're both left tackles. So what I'll say is Lane Johnson, obviously, I think in the future is going to be a left tackle, but Lane Johnson is easily the best right tackle in the league. But he's going to be moving over to the left, I think, depending on what happens in the offseason.
Do you think that they missed anyone?
Maybe you could put in Whitworth there.
Yeah.
Because of the run game, obviously, and protection of Goff. And, obviously we look at McVay as who turned it around, but, what they did with that O-line in the offseason has to help, and Whitworth definitely was a reason for that. But it's tough when you're going against Tyron Smith and Trent Williams, and if you're only going to have 3, I think Lane Johnson is a beast, but they probably needed a right tackle, plus he's an offensive.
Do you think, though, that he should have made it over Tyron Smith just because Tyron Smith's been hurt all year?
Yeah, I think you could definitely argue that, for sure. Yeah, you could argue that. I think Trent Williams is obviously is always going to be in there because I think he battled all year long. He missed a couple games, but yeah. I know that's the thing. I wasn't a fan of all these Cowboys. I know they're unbelievable, but I just wasn't a fan of having 3 Cowboys on a team that's only 1 game above 500 or 2 or whatever it is. That's just me.
Yeah, I agree. Then going on to the guard position, Zach Martin of the Cowboys, Brandon Brooks of the Eagles, and Brandon, is it Scherf?
Yes. Something like that.
I always mess his name up too. So Brandon Brooks from the Eagles. What do you think of that pick? Just right off the top.
He's been a warrior. He's actually, since we signed him 2 years ago, he was a little injury prone last year. He's been never injured this whole year, has played tough. I think that this comes down to he was pretty good in Houston, and he had a so-so year last year, but you could see how good he was. And then this year he has been dominated. Has been dominant against other guys at the guard position. Haven't allowed many sacks. We haven't really been dominated from the interior when it comes to pressure, which I do like. But I think that goes to a team that's 12-2 and one of the best offenses before the injury. Even after the injury, I guess. But this goes to my Madden theory, where you always get a couple guys from that best team in the Pro Bowl. You know what I mean? For the offensive, especially if you're the best offense. Like what? How many guys did Arizona have last year? They probably had 2 or 3 on the offensive line.
I think they just had their left tackle.
And Mac probably last year.
The Falcons or the Cardinals?
The Falcons.
Oh, they had
the Falcons.
Mac and probably Matthews.
Yeah. So I think you just get that. But Brooks has been great for the Eagles, so I'm not hating on that. But then Zach Martin.
I would say that I think that Andrus Peat of the Saints definitely deserves to be here, but that's just my opinion. I'm not sure about the Redskins' choice, especially considering that they've all kind of been interchanging and they've all been injured. Zach Martin has definitely not been his strongest year. You would probably say it was a stronger year if Zeke was running behind him for more of the year, but yeah, the Cowboys' offensive line is great. They're gonna get.
I just want to quickly look because I do agree with you with the Saints, but I'm just going to quickly look at the Minnesota's depth chart just to look at refresh with my No, I guess that's pretty good. I was thinking someone else, but I guess Joe Berger has been pretty good for them.
Yeah, he has.
And then Nick Easton. But maybe one of those guys. But it looks like they went for the big names instead. And then I agree with you with the Saints as well. When you have the best running game by far in the league, it's tough not to have more than what? They don't have any.
They don't have
crazy.
anyone.
Yeah, you easily could have, and no one would have batted an eye, right? So
the center position does go to Alex Mack, which I think is the right choice.
Yeah, for sure.
Falcons. Travis Frederick, you could say he's still probably the best center. He's one of, if he's not better, if Alex Smith's better than Travis Frederick is probably second. Those are probably two pretty good choices. Again, you could have looked at some other teams. Maybe Kelsey gets in there.
Kelsey, I think, got snubbed, but I think maybe putting Brandon Brooks which is fine. It might have been too much to put all three.
Yeah, maybe you put Kelsey instead of Frederick, and you put the Saints guy instead of Brooks.
Yeah, so that's what I think. I thought most people thought it was going to be Kelsey instead of Brooks. No one, when I was on Twitter and people were giving predictions, not many people thought Brooks. Nothing against Brooks because he is a great player. Just we thought it was obviously going to be Lane, and we didn't think it was going to be three guys. Especially our three main, because if you look at it, just like the Cowboys, they have those other two positions that those three don't start at, always are interchanging. Same with the Eagles. When Peters went down, obviously Big V's been in there, but the left guard, we've had Chance Warmack, we've had Wisniewski, we've had a bunch of different people there, but those three have been pretty steady, which I think helps. And I think that's why Cowboys guys get it, because no matter what is happening with that team, those three are always pretty steady.
True. Tight end position, Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
Jimmy Graham of the Seattle Seahawks. For Kevol. I don't think there's anyone else you could even put in there.
No, not at all. And like you said, the NFC, just looking at it, maybe Evan Ingram, I think you could put in there for sure.
Evan Ingram would be third. Jordan Reed was hurt all year.
But I think, but you know what I mean? If you think about it, Jimmy Graham just gets in for those TD jump balls because he hasn't really done anything like catches. I'd be interesting to see what his catches are because Evan Ingram is just behind Ertz really in all categories.
What does the tight end categories look like? Yeah, I know.
I just have it in the receiving, but I went down. So Zach Ertz is first in the NFC. He has 63 catches, 719 yards, and 8 touchdowns, and missed 2 games. And Evan Ingram has 63 catches, the same amount, only 9 yards less, and only 2 touchdowns less. I don't even know Jimmy Graham's numbers. Jimmy Graham can't have more than 600 yards, maybe.
No,
he just has probably 8 or 9 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd actually say that I think Evan Ingram should have been in there instead of Jimmy Graham. But I guess, you got to commend the guy for catching those jump balls all the time. But he had a lot of drops. I'd be interested to see what Jimmy Graham's drops are like.
But it is interesting that both of those guys are kind of both more receivers than they are tight ends necessarily.
Yeah, true.
They don't really block very much. Zach Ertz is kind of more the well-rounded guy. And other than that, Evan Ingram, and then probably fourth would be Kyle Rudolph. It drops off quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would probably agree. You could say Evan Ingram, but then again, I'm not losing sleep over Jimmy Graham.
No, not at all.
Quarterback Carson Wentz with the star, and then Russell Wilson and Drew Brees are the backups. There's not a lot to argue there. You could argue Matt Stafford over Drew Brees.
Or even Goff.
that's probably it. I think Russell Wilson and Carson Wentz are definitely the right choices. But again, I don't think this has been a Drew Brees-led team. It's been more so a running game team. And I would put Matt Stafford in because he is the reason they win the game.
And I just looked at the numbers, and the numbers back you up too.
Okay.
That Stafford should be on over Brees.
But it's Brees, so
yeah,
you're going to give it to him. Running backs, Todd Gurley, Alvin Kamara, and Mark Ingram. 2 guys from the Saints, 1 guy from the Rams. Don't disagree with Todd Gurley. Should maybe be the MVP of the league. He's in the conversation. Other guys, trying to see the NFC teams here. Devontae Freeman is always a good player.
Like Jordan Howard could have made it.
Jordan Howard. That's probably it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would give it to the Saints guys. They've been absolutely explosive, especially Kamara. And in the pass game, in the run game, again, the reason why they're so good this year. So I agree with the running backs, especially Todd Gurley being the starter. And then for fullback, Kyle Juszczyk of the 49ers signed a huge contract in the offseason. He's been playing pretty well this year for the 49ers. And he is definitely the best well-rounded fullback in terms of blocking, catching, running, doing it. He could basically play running back too. He's a really good player, and he's going to be good for a number of years in San Fran. Fullback gets the star too. He's been Pro Bowl probably 3 or 4 times. So,
yeah, no, I don't mind those at all. I mean, and Juszczyk is one of those things too. Like he's the finesse fullback. Like he gets involved in the offense more so than any other fullback in the NFL, and you're going to get the nod most of the time for that.
True. Defensive end, Everson Griffin for the Vikings, DeMarcus Lawrence for the Cowboys, and I like that Cameron Jordan of the Saints has made it. So I agree with both of the starters, Griffin, Lawrence. Lawrence was leading the league in sacks for a long time, and I think he just deserves it to get in there. Everson Griffin on second best defense in the league, a really good player. And Cameron Jordan has been absolutely awesome for the Saints, and a big reason why they've been a lot better on defense. Other than that,
you could have like the thing is a lot of people wanted Brandon Graham.
But
he's not as good as these 3. I'm saying these 3 have done more, and I think what I was hearing too was it was gonna be tough for Brandon Graham because the defensive end is, especially in the NFC, was pretty deep, and you can't go wrong with those 3 guys.
Yeah, no, I would definitely choose those 3 guys if it was me. So,
but he's definitely first or second alternate, I would say.
Interior linemen: Fletcher Cox, Aaron Donald, obviously. Gerald McCoy, third. You could argue Quan Short, maybe.
Yeah.
And Linval Joseph.
But I don't know who you take out. You could maybe take out McCoy just because of the Bucks this year.
But that's probably it.
Yeah. But like, man, if we talked about the best 3, it's funny because if we talked about the best 3 T tackles in the league, these at the beginning of the season, these are the 3 names we would say, right? Maybe in a different or like maybe probably Aaron Donald number 1.
Maybe Atkins. That's it.
True. But yeah, but looking at that though, like how crazy for D tackles is that?
Oh yeah, like Fletcher Cox.
That is like out of all the positions, Fletcher Cox and Aaron Donald side by side is probably the most dominant position group you could have. Like if you actually played in the NFL,
for sure. People are saying Bobby Wagner got Snubs. He's on the team.
Yeah, no, he's in for sure. What? He's having a great year.
People were saying that earlier. I'm just looking at this. He didn't get the start, though. Luke Kuechly did.
Yeah.
But let's go over the linebackers. Chandler Jones leading the league in sacks at outside linebacker for the Cardinals. Ryan Kerrigan for the Redskins. And Anthony Barr for the Vikings. Ryan Kerrigan's an interesting one. I always think he's a great player. The Redskins kind of been on and off. He's a good player. He probably got in because of the fan vote more than anything, to be honest. But I won't necessarily disagree with that vote. Who are some other guys? I think Eric Kendricks of the Vikings could have made it.
Yeah.
He's more of a middle linebacker, but then you have who else? Maybe Thomas Davis, always in the conversation, and Deion Jones definitely could.
I know he wasn't like on a great team, but like Zach Brown could have easily been.
Zach Brown
somewhere, but he's inside.
He's a middle linebacker, same as Deion Jones,
and that's tough.
Yeah,
but no, you can't really argue. Ryan Kerrigan, you might be able to argue a bit because of inconsistency. Because the times we played when the Eagles played him, he wasn't very good, and that's what I can base a lot of. Like, I can't base things off that. But the times I've watched him play, he hasn't been as dominant as.
Yeah, personally, I would throw in Deion Jones there instead of him.
Yeah.
Anthony Barr, inside linebacker Luke Kuechly and Bobby Wagner. Obviously, is that better or worse than Fletcher Cox, Aaron Donald?
That's pretty good, but if you're a 3-4, then it could be good. But I still would go Aaron Donald, Fletcher Cox, in my opinion. That is
quarterback. Xavier Rhodes, Patrick Peterson, Marshawn Lattimore, Darius Slay. 100% fine with that. I would argue that Slay should be a starter instead of Patrick Peterson, but that's it.
And I would argue Peterson kind of gets the thing as the reason why Fitzgerald gets in. Yes, not had a good season, but not his best, but just enough to probably get him in. He's unbelievable, but obviously just the team in general has been down, but he's obviously...
No Sherman this year, obviously, injured. No Norman. Trumaine Johnson could be in.
Yes. Yeah.
Desmond Trufant. Who else?
Yeah, and Lattimore, obviously Lattimore's in.
Make it. I agree with that. I agree with
sure.
I would probably have maybe Trumaine Johnson over Patrick Peterson, but that's it. Maybe.
No, and I agree with that. I do agree. Obviously, how can you not go wrong with Rhodes and Lattimore? But then again, Peterson, maybe it's a thing that if he doesn't get voted in, maybe he doesn't make it, right? Because I feel like the NFL can't fudge the vote numbers for the starters, but they could probably fudge the other stuff, for the backups.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If I were to rank the NFC corners, I would have Rhodes, Slay, Lattimore, then maybe Johnson, and then Peterson. So Peterson would probably be 5th on my list for NFC. You frozen?
No, I just wasn't talking.
Oh, okay. No thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I do like Trumaine Johnson, and it's cool because my buddy played football at Montana, and he was a Montana guy, which is funny to see guys from just, smaller schools like Montana make it in the NFL.
Okay, free safety, Earl Thomas.
Yeah, how can you go wrong?
Strong safety, Landon Collins and Malcolm Jenkins. I would have put. Okay, this is where I love Landon Collins.
Yeah, but it wasn't his best year.
You can't just because the Giants were so bad. You can't put him in there. I would put Harrison Smith in there, and then you have who else could you put? You could put even the guy from Atlanta. What's his name?
Keanu Neal.
Yeah,
and even Glover Quinn, maybe.
Glover Quinn, he's been good, and
I even think you could argue Rodney McLeod on the Eagles. He's actually, I feel like he's been
there's no
better than Jenkins
this year. And yeah, that's probably
you know what? I know I shouldn't be saying this, but I do think Malcolm Jenkins might get in as a little bit because of his stuff, the NFL, and for the
I think he's great.
For the players.
I've always been a Malcolm Jenkins fan.
I am a Malcolm Jenkins fan. I am, but like I said, Harrison Smith. There are other guys. I think
there's only 3 safeties. Again, this is dumb, but I think the starters should be Earl Thomas and Harrison Smith, and I think the backup would be Malcolm Jenkins for me.
Yeah, and the thing with Malcolm Jenkins too. He played pretty deep, he was really good when we were beating on teams, but he has looked, in my opinion, last game against the Giants, I saw maybe make 1 or 2 plays. You know what I mean?
The thing about Malcolm Jenkins is though, he is like McCourty. Without him, how did the Eagles play? And he's one of those safeties that you can ask him to play corner, He can play in the box. He can play free safety, strong safety, slot corner, whatever you really want him to do, he kind of does it. And that's why I appreciate him.
Yeah, for sure.
Special teams, Johnny Hecker, no argument for me, best punter in the league. Kicker, Greg Zuerlein, probably the right call there too. Dan Bailey's hurt all year. Definitely. Oh, no, never mind. It definitely should have been Walsh. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't know really who else. Greg the Leg. But
Should've
like
been
a
Heath.
lot of recognition for the Rams special teams. Farrell Cooper.
Yeah.
And special teamer Buda Baker.
Well, because they live in their coordinator's Fossil, right? Jim Fossil's son or brother or something like that.
Yeah.
His son. Yeah. Because like every time I turn on, they're like, "Oh, Fossil!" Like just going nuts. I haven't heard this much love for a special team coordinator since John Harbaugh, man.
Oh, here we go.
John Harbaugh or who else? Or Mr. 8-8.
Mr. 8-8, Jeff Fisher.
Yeah, right. Because he was just a special teams coordinator before he became a coach.
Do you think Buda Baker should have been the special teamer? I don't really know.
I don't know. I know there was talk who is a reserve, because I know the Eagles reserve is Grugier Hill.
Grugier Hill, who got cut by the Patriots.
Yeah, and he became our kicker one time, and he flies down. I love how special teams.
I would have put him in just for that.
I love how special teams, you're just like, yeah, because he flies down the field every time.
I would have put in Jeff Heath. Damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what's funny, because like the special teams, right? It's just about, just flying downfield.
Basically.
Stay in your lane.
Basically.
I remember that from football kickoff. You gotta stay in your lane. You just book it downfield. That's why I hope they never get rid of the kickoff, because like it's a pretty awesome thing. Like running down the field on a kickoff, it's just like you're just booking it, and there's just like
what is probably the dumbest.
There's like 10 guys trying to block you, and there's just 11 guys running towards them, like just trying to. It's awesome.
It's probably the dumbest play in all of sports.
No, but I think you need it though.
I love it, but
yeah.
All right, so that's the Pro Bowl rosters for the AFC and NFC. Let's get to some fan chat. We went over the snubs. We went over what we thought. I think this is the first comment. We might have been a little late, but Jason Kelsey, it got snubbed, says Marcos. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, no. I think he easily, but then you have to take out Frederick, who I think on paper look like Frederick obviously gets in, but I think Kelsey had a great season. And Kelsey's a guy that has had a resurgence because there was talk last year that they were going to cut him.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this year he becomes like what we've seen in the past, because he has had great season for the Eagles. But then there was like a 2-year period where they were talking like maybe they were going to get rid of him. So it's nice to see what he's done this year. And I've seen interviews. He's a pretty funny dude. So I'm a fan.
Jeremy says Jamal Adams. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but I guess like the safeties are pretty. Yeah.
Who are the safeties again?
He's definitely a close alternate. The safeties for the AFC.
Yeah, he could have made it over Rashad Jones too, in my opinion.
Yeah. He's definitely, and I did see the Jets alternate that he is an alternate. So
cool.
Hopefully he gets in.
Kill'em Boy says hate on my Pats AC. Brandon Cooks should have been a Pro Bowler this year instead of being snubbed. I already gave you my thoughts on that. He says this year the Pats have 4 Pro Bowlers. Gronk this year is an All-Pro. I don't think anyone's questioning that. I can't believe Stephon Gilmore. What? He wasn't a Pro Bowler.
Maybe last year.
Oh, maybe that's what he's thinking. Do you guys think Gilmore is good? I'll let AC answer that question.
Okay, so coming from obviously like the NHL world, where I know more about like the finance and contracts. In the NFL, it's not as big of a deal, but in the NHL, you get judged, even if you don't want to, but you get judged on how much money you make, right, Mitch? You would say that? In the NHL more so than any other league? I know you get judged in any single league, but like you got to pay. I mean, you got to play what you're worth.
I guess.
No, I'm just saying I think in the NHL it's more done. Like if you're paying a guy $6 million and he's only getting you 10, 15 goals a year and he's supposed to get you 30, or he's getting paid for 30.
Because I think for the NHL it's more production based, because in the NFL a thing like corner, it's hard to put a thing beside it. You know?
No, but I'm just saying, like, but for everyone, the way they talk, even Patriots fans talk, I just think that they've maybe. I think it's not gonna hurt them, but I think when you put in how much money they spent for him, I think it hurts Gilmore.
Honestly, I think he's been better down the stretch. He didn't have his greatest game against the Steelers, but I think he's improving. So
But is that what you had to pay for him to get him in the room, and come playoff time, if he makes plays, it's worth it, right? That's why it's not the end of the world. I just look at how much he did get paid and how he's playing.
And then thinking about it, and thinking about it now, I think the Patriots probably should have spent that money on a pass rusher instead.
True.
Maybe they should have thrown it at Melvin Ingram instead.
Yeah.
So that's just my thoughts on that. But I don't think Gilmore has been bad. I just don't think he's been like what I thought he would have been yet. Maybe he will be next year. Who knows? He's still young, so we'll see. Justin Tucker says, Ivan, it's a big snub. That one turtle says the only player that got snubbed was Nick Folk. What else? So many people snubbed this year, says Training Solutions. Ridge Gameplay says, hi, what's going on? Patriot Lord says, OMG, I enjoyed the Steelers game. Wink, wink. Training Solution says, my boy Jason Kelsey got snubbed so bad. He was the best center in the league this year.
Yeah, like I like Mac is pretty impressive. That's why I wouldn't he'd be up there. I do think Kelsey played like one of the better centers in the league, but I'd still have to give it to Mac.
Killin' Boy says, has Malcolm Butler ever been a Pro Bowler? I believe he was last year. Training Solutions says Jordan Howard was snubbed and Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner is in the Pro Bowl. It's a backup though. Brandon Graham snubbed in caps from Training Solutions. Deshaun says, hey, Mitch, what's going on? Kellen Boys says, I would have put Keenan Allen out of the list instead of Brandon Cooks, I guess. Training Solution says, Evan Ingram was snubbed. What else? Donald Penn shouldn't have made it. Jamal Adams or Marshawn Lattimore? Who would you rather have, AC?
Ooh. Well, I think the Saints. I was surprised that the Saints. Remember when I was doing that mock draft? I had Marshawn Lattimore going like top 5, 6.
I was shocked.
Obviously, I had Jamal Adams going high as well. I think it's different, but I did think they were both going to be unbelievable top players.
They have been so far,
and they have been so far. But I couldn't believe the Saints got him where they got him. Like,
I'll say this:
I can't believe it. He should have been like the Titans could have used him. So
I'll say this. Who would you I'll ask it like this. Who would you rather have, AC? Deion Sanders or Ronnie Lott?
Well, then Deion Sanders. Then I'll go Marshawn Lattimore then.
I think you want the best corner or the corner. If the guys are equal, let's say they're the best at both positions, you want the corner instead of the safety, in my opinion.
The one I would do, like my comparison would be like, or even for you, like Ty Law, Rodney Harrison type thing.
Yeah. I would rather have Ty Law.
Yeah. Okay. Because if you said like Brian Dawkins, I'd be like, okay, I'd rather have Brian.
Okay, Dawkins. I'll take Brian Dawkins.
Yeah.
My dogs are going insane in the background. Oh, Todd Gurley whooped my Seahawks ass, says Jollywood.
Oh yeah.
Deion Jones says Julio Jones, hashtag Jet Jones. Jordan Howard, he said. A lot of people said Jordan Howard.
He's easily like the 4th reserve. I think him and Cohen are actually reserves.
Jets Nation says Coney Ely got snubbed.
Maybe, yeah. I just think defensive end is so deep, and there's so many different variations of different players. So, yeah.
Nagoku says Trevin Griffin should have made it. He says, yeah, you could have argued that for sure.
But
this guy, nobody knew who this guy was, AC, in the preseason, and I saw him like all the reports. They played the Patriots in practice, and all the reports were like this guy couldn't stop sacking the quarterback. Like, and then all of a sudden he just like blows up like a beast. So this guy, obviously, he's a bright star for the Jags in the future. Probably make it next year. We'll see what happens. Rob Gronkowski better be on here. Yes, he is. Why doesn't the last 2 games count, says Stefan.
True. I think just maybe for voting, they want to get the word out there. Because I always know that it's always they do it early. So then when the games, the last 2 weeks of the season are on, they can be like Pro Bowl when they put the graphics up. That's what I think.
Stefan says Big Ben will start in the Pro Bowl because Brady will be starting in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Even
but
though
they might
Big
not
Ben
win.
will probably
They
be
might
hurt.
not win the Super Bowl because of my curse, though. So
Yeah, that's true. Bray
we'll
Wyatt.
see. The Bray Wyatt curse, man. There's already trouble because of that. I cursed that the trainer dude.
Kev Bull was flabbergasted. He didn't know what to do.
The trainer dude, man.
You wanna respond to Kev Bull or what?
What? For what?
You're in his head, I think.
Yeah, I am.
That's all he does. He talks about you all the time.
I know. He's just like, AC won't like this. Well, you're not gonna like this. Nah, I'm kidding.
Fournette is better than Kareem Hunt.
No, and when you guys were talking, you were saying like I wasn't like there was not one time where I said like the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. I just disagree where I think they can at least win one game with this team.
What did I say? Can you remind me?
You said something like, yeah, he was talking about how Nick Foles and there's no problems. And then he was like, oh, I'd like to hear that, like how he says that. And I was just like, my take was like,
you were saying like that Nick Foles played really well and stuff.
Well, he did play really well. And I'm saying that I believe we still can win because of the NFC. I still think we can win a playoff game if it's in Philadelphia in the winter. Like a lot of factors have to happen. But I think like
you didn't explain it like that when you were drunk.
Okay. Yeah, I was buzzed.
As a Seahawks fan, our team should be 0-14. No wins. Our team is not good. We have no O-line, and our defense is injured. If it wasn't for Russell Wilson, Seahawks would be trash. Wilson for MVP, says Jollywood.
Kevnor the whole time was like, we're the best team ever.
I know. That's
all year.
That like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Patriot Lord says,
like Kevin. Wait, sorry. I'll bring it up now. Like Kevin has done. He can't go from being like so happy about this team, like they're going to win all the time, to being like, no, we're done.
Yeah.
He can't do that. And he's just like, oh, like, when I was listening to him, that was the biggest cop-out I've heard from Kevin. How he went from never saying a bad thing about thing to like backing out, being like, oh, there's management issues now. Oh, it's like, what are you? No. Can't let him off the hook like that.
Yeah, we got to get on him. Patriot Lord says, I think the Patriots defense is going to screw us over. Killin' Boys says, Dion Lewis can be 5th. Stefan says,
probably 6th or 7th.
Yeah, he's probably there. We are embracing the next man up.
Is that about the Eagles?
Patriots, I think. Don't care about fullback, says Julio. James Devlin is an underrated beast, says Killin' Boys. Aaron Rodgers was snubbed, says Jollywood. He missed like the whole season.
If it was a fan vote, he probably still would have got in.
So you want Teddy Bridgewater to make it, says Stefan? What else? Sean Lee, says Stefan. Skip would have put Sean Lee in.
Yeah, well, for sure.
Did Ingram make it, says Training Solutions? No, he did not. Marshawn Lynch was snubbed, says Jollywood.
He's bad. He's decent. I just don't think he's lost a big step. I don't think that was a very productive signing for them.
Alvin Kamara for Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's between him and Hunt. It's going to be tight.
I think if it stands right now, though, I think Kamara has it. I think even though Hunt did have his best game in his last 6 last week, Kamara has to keep it up. But I think if I was voting right now, I'd pick Kamara.
The Kyle says Diggs.
Yeah, I think it's just tough to go 2 receivers on the same squad. But especially like when you look at that list, like those are pretty top-notch receivers. Not saying Diggs isn't, but
Training Solution says Jenkins hasn't been as good as he was last year. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's tough because our defense wasn't as good last year, but Jenkins stepped up to make himself look better, I guess. And this year with our defense a bit better, especially with that secondary being a bit better, maybe he's kind of. I still think he's good. I just think the last 2 games he's really been weak. I think the whole secondary has been weak, but it's been tough because those first 12 games they helped us a lot, right? Like, there was times where people were actually talking about Jalen Mills as a legit corner, but the last 2-3 weeks it hasn't really been the case.
Okay.
And he just takes so many penalties too.
Killin' Boy says Bill Belichick says there's a possibility Malcolm Mitchell comes back. Well, I hope so. We could use whoever we get. Justin Tucker says Training Solutions. Marshawn Lattimore made it. Don't worry. Goff is going to back up Wentz, says Julio Jones.
Yeah, like he'll probably get in because like Wentz isn't playing at all, right? So it'd be interesting in that NFC. Is it Stafford or is it Goff who gets the first call?
That's true. He'll probably go to Goff.
I think so. Well, because in voting, he was 10th overall.
Oh, okay.
In everything. He was 10th overall in voting at any position.
Interesting. Marco says Brandon Graham. Alvin Kamara should be the starter, says Julio Jones. What about John Cena, says 1,000 subscribers with no videos. Bobby Wagner should start. Norman is overrated. Zerline is injured. Okay, what else we got here? I just skipped a bunch. No Wolford, no right tackle for the Saints, says Michael. Yeah, I think Saints got poorly represented in the Pro Bowl.
I think so too.
Seahawks are winning out and taking the last wild card spot, says Jollywood. What is it? Where is this guy? He's all over the map.
They go from 0-14 to making the playoff. But winning the Super Bowl first, I think it was. It started off with winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, what's your percentage on that? Them making the playoffs? 2?
Yeah, it's low. It's like 5, especially if at least Atlanta winning because like that was like obviously Atlanta let Tampa Bay hang in, but I think a lot of fans probably were choked. A lot of Dallas and Seahawks fans were probably choked at that. Even Detroit. Yeah, 2%. And it looks like it depends because, well, it doesn't matter. Like this game, one team will have a chance. One team will be out of the playoffs this week. We'll know that for sure.
Percentage.
So if Seahawks beat Dallas, then I'll give them about, I'll bump it up to like 25, 30.
Because you're not on picks tonight, who are you picking in that game?
I don't know. It's a tough one.
He's not letting us know.
No. I don't like. I'm just. It is tough. I got to really think about it. It's like, whose side do I want to take? A Cowboys fan or a Seahawks fan?
I think you got to take Dilly's side.
I know. I was actually leaning towards Cowboys. Yeah. Okay. Especially with Zeke. Even just, it's a more practical bet to make, anyways. Like,
just for
the
fun?
odds are. No, I'm just saying the odds are in Cowboys' favor.
Yeah.
Like they're probably the favorite, so I'll just take the favorites. Yeah, I'll take Cowboys.
Chiefs Rule asks, what's the percentage chance the Chiefs win the AFC West?
Like close to 100 now.
Probably like 88.
Yeah, which is great odds.
Okay. All right. That's what we'll finish it off. NFL Pro Bowl roster reaction with Mitch AC of the Bottom Line View. Hope you guys enjoyed. We gave you our snubs, our thoughts on the rosters. Thanks for joining us here live. If you enjoyed, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and check us out tonight. Picks, myself, Kevol, Dilly for Week 16. Big week. We're deciding who's going to make the playoffs, who's not going to make the playoffs. And check us out tonight. Time is going to be 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central, and 7:30 Pacific time. All right. Peace out.